and post this. So I want to post this on YouTube, and I'm Deborah Westbrook, and today we're going to continue this talk on off the grid. Today we're going to focus on when you go off the grid, what does that mean again, a little recap, and then how does that relate to the fact that we are divinely human? We're learning to be a fully realized human in the world, not of the world. So what does that mean for me? How can I break it down and realize that it's a quantum concept? How do I live out these principles that I'm teaching? Because I'm a firm believer that unless I'm living them out, if they stay conceptually in my mind, and they don't reach down into my heart where I experience them with my emotions, then they're trapped right in my mind. So let's talk about this. Let me get rid of some of those sacred cows in our life that we thought were true, but are not necessarily true. So let's look back and think again, what does it mean to be off the grid? First of all, it is finished. We are in a new frequency, in a new earth, in an evolution of a global awakening. We are there. But now just because we're there does not mean we know how to navigate it. And you can feel this in your body. A lot of people that are energy healers or empaths, they can feel this transition. You can feel it through what's happening in the energy fields. That's a very special reality to walk in. Not always easy, but you can sense things. So there's also this integration. So off the grid, remember we talked last week, most people go off the grid when they want to go on an adventure, but we're living off the grid right now. What does that mean? It means that we are going to move in a level of creativity and innovation of our authentic selves. And when you flow in that energy, that resonance brings other people into contact with you. So that's when teams form through resonance. That's when friendships form, relationships form, because they form on the basis of resonance. And there's this beautiful flow that you understand each other sometimes without things being said. You're all heading in the right direction. So off the grid in this realm that we're moving in means we're tapping into ourselves, our authentic self, our true self. That who was formed in God before the foundations of the earth, and now we're incarnate. What does that mean? I mean, what does that really mean? How do we live out this creative expression? Because you don't really want to be anybody other than you. So deep in the core of your being, there are things that resonate that you can't even put into words. Like I said at the beginning, I'm going to flow a little and I'm going to look at my notes. When I don't get all my notes, I know that it's the spirit and it's God saying, just kind of flow with me. So we know who we are. You know deep in the core of your being that sometimes there's things that you know who you are, but you can't explain them. You can't put them into words because they're so fused within your DNA, within your being, that you just naturally flow in that. Well, we're going to, in the coming days, see more of I don't want to say definition, but I want to see a knowing of who we are, what resonates with us, what doesn't, how do we move into that resonance? And it brings us great joy and great peace. So when you're talking about going off the grid into a new earth, into a new frequency that is here, what you're basically talking about is how to be innovative and creative. You were never taught that in religion. I was never taught that. Creativity is not honored when you're going in and out of a building every week and told to sit down and listen. It takes incredible leaders. And I believe that there's going to rise up wonderful, innovative leaders that are going to foster an energy and an atmosphere of discovery. And in that discovery, you're going to join up with these people, come alongside them, and you're going to walk it out. And these leaders are going to forge the way as forerunners with the sole purpose and the passionate desire to see people rise up in their authentic self. I've really never been to a church. I do not classify myself as a Christian anymore. It's irrelevant to me what the title is, but I do not recall being in services where I was encouraged to be myself. The rules were laid down, the thoughts were laid down. So many restrictions were laid down that totally brought into reality the downplaying of this beautiful humanity that I find myself in. And I was caged, and many of us were put in boxes, when in reality, the full message of Jesus was to show this beautiful incarnation and how to walk within the quantum realm, in the Christ mind, in the Christ field. We'll get into that in a little bit. So the Christ field, why do I call this quantum mapping? I got that idea And it sounded good to me. Well, when you're navigating a new territory, if you're on vacation in the natural realm, you will use a GPS device. It'll be hooked to your car, it'll be on your phone. It'll be a navigational tool to get you to a certain place. When you're in a new place, and I've traveled all over the world, and you have to learn to navigate with a certain sense of the unknown and the flow. Yeah, when I used to travel, I could stick to a rigid schedule, which I never did. That's why I don't travel a lot in groups, where they say, be there at 11 o'clock, and then we're going to see that, and then we're going to see that, and they flow along in a structured way. That's not my idea of travel. So when you're navigating a new location, you are just going by the flow and the signs of walking forth, meeting people, going to certain places. That's a life in the spirit, even when you travel. So in this new realm that we're in, I want to say a new frequency, there are also inner navigational tools to help us. We've come out of so many of them, out of dualism, out of control, out of so many things, and we're now standing in this open field, and some of us are feeling uncomfortable. Freedom can be very uncomfortable if all your life you've been used to just sitting in a chair and getting directions from someone. Most people that find themselves in that place, they don't even know who they are. So you've got to have a lot of compassion, because they've never been given the freedom to be themselves. So quantum provides these mapping tools. I want to call them navigational tools of the coherence of the mind and the heart, and these concepts of entanglement, that our mind and our thoughts and our elevated emotions provide us with a connection to the Christ field in God, that our observation creates reality, that we are united, that we are one, that we are light, that we are energy slowed down in a dense matter, but slowly rising in consciousness, which means arising in light and arising in the vibration of the frequency of sound through the very reality of God within us, constantly saying, let this be, let this be, let this be, constantly creating through the access in the Christ field to a creative life. So we're going to talk about some of these tools in the day ahead. And when I launch this course, I believe Bonnie's probably going to do, a good friend of mine, that she's going to follow up my course with, we're talking about this quantum heart course. What are these inner navigational tools where God has embedded himself in your humanity, within your heart, the power of your heart? This topic is so broad and so wide. You're not left as orphans here to navigate something you don't know. There's a difference in navigating the unknown or feeling unknown. Let me say that again. There's a big difference between navigating the unknown with these navigational tools within you, the spirit, the Christ field, the Christ, than being unknown and sitting still, paralyzed in fear or doubt or anxiety. You are not meant to live that way. So let's talk about Jesus, but let's talk about Jesus, not the way the church talks about Jesus, not talking about salvation, not talking about the way, only way to God. I do not believe that. Let's talk about Jesus as the pattern son, as the fractal of God that dropped down into humanity with the fullness of deity within him to navigate a life in the earth while connecting to the very field that we ourselves connect in. He connected in Christ in the field. We connect in Christ in the field. There is no difference. There is zero difference. He is not so iconic and so holy because it says very clearly in scripture that he empathized, that he identified with every bit of our humanity. Now let that sink in. Maybe I'll be bold to do something about this in the days ahead. He identified with every pleasure, every feeling, every emotion, every bit of intimacy, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. There was nothing left out. So I believe when he said it is finished, it is simply saying that he provided the perfect pattern for us to look at to live a quantum life here. And a quantum life is so connected in innovation and creativity that you're about to live your best life if you simply begin to venture out in this truth. So Jesus was a pattern. He was a pattern of our integration of our humanity and divinity. If you get rid of all the religious connotations and look at the man Jesus, however you recognize him as fully man, fully God, invested with the integration of divinity and humanity, we are no different, because as he is, so are we in this world. We come out of the same field. We come out of God, out of source. There is no difference. There is no elevation. He is the perfect pattern, the perfect prototype. What does prototype mean? A prototype is an original model or design after which something is patterned. The fullness of deity resides in him. Even Adyashanti, who is a Buddhist, when he wrote the book Resurrecting Jesus, it's such a powerful book because he saw Jesus clearer than most Christians see him. And he said Jesus was the perfect pattern, the perfect example to show us how we can be in the world moving in a quantum realm, and gave such deep, profound teaching on the life of Jesus. So when Jesus said, "Follow me," it wasn't to we get that so wrong. Look at me, move with me, flow in the rhythm of my grace. And they didn't get it. All along, they didn't get it. Why did they not get it? Because I believe in the book of Acts, when they were up in that room, they were imbued, they were infused with a divine energy that they did not have previous that to be able to see. And that is where we are today. The blinders are being ripped off our eyes. We are seeing in a new way, hearing in a new way, and all the stuff we believed has no credence anymore. So Jesus was the prototype. And it says that the definition of a prototype is the release of a product built, listen, this is too good. It is the release of a product built to test a concept. When a company wants to put something out, it puts out a prototype. That prototype is going to see whether or not what they're thinking in their vision is going to work. Sila, let's just sit there for 1 minute and really grasp this, because this is exactly what Jesus did. He was the first one out, and he said, "Let me show you how it's done. Don't use me as a reason to get out of heaven or hell. Don't use me to avoid the beauty of your humanity. See me for who I am. Here I am. I'm this patterned son. I'm this prototype, and move with me as I show you things, as I move in the reality of time and show you how you should be living your life. Give you examples and concepts." So he was the prototype, and he tested the concept. What did he test? How to move in love and gratitude, how to, in the days ahead as we teach, how to bring his mind that was connected to the Christ field. It's not enough. Folks, it's not enough just to have knowledge or ideas. In order to manifest that, the connection in the field has to coherently link with the elevated emotions in your heart. And again, broad, beautiful topic we'll study on the day ahead. So what was Jesus revealing? What was he testing? Well, he was testing this inner technology that he gave to us. He moved in the quantum realm. Every miracle he performed, as he was led to walk in space-time, when he confronted people, when he healed people, those are all quantum principles. They're not so mystical that we can't understand them, nor are they so mystical that we'll say, "Oh, that's for other people." How many of us have sat in a church and this so-called, quote, anointing was for people that had something more than we had? That was dualism. That was an established hierarchy, and it was putting something on someone that we forgot we ourselves had within us. So he moved in this realm, and as he is, so am I in the world. He embodied the Father. He incarnated in the pleasure of a body, the pleasure of a body, the pleasure of a body. And to embody the Father, to embody the field, to embody the Christ self, that authentic reality of who you are in your true design within you, it means to make visible. You're never meant to stay in the form of energy. You chose to incarnate into time for such a time as this. You chose to come here. You chose to say, I'm coming here, and what are you going to do? Just take your life and do nothing with it? I think that's the passion of my heart. So you are embodying to make visible what? The love of God, the creativity of the Father, that Father within, to manifest the kingdom in your purpose and your identity. You are embodied, and you have to have a body to do that. Weren't we not taught? I won't go on a rant, but let me just rant for a minute. Here's some of the things I grew up in, always in leadership. Pastor, all that BS, but I don't rant about it. I honor it, but I thank God I'm out of it. I was told, don't watch Lord of the Rings because it's demonic. Everything was demonic that they justified as religious to keep you holy. Then there was purity culture. Ever heard of that? Where people were wed to Jesus. Oh my God, Jesus doesn't want you to be wed to him. This purity and this ring and this significance. Do you know how many people had sex just to get married? Because they were so confounded by that false ideology of purity culture. There is nothing you're going to do or I'm going to do to stop young people from rising up in this hormonal reality of their physical being. There is another way. Paul's writings, I read so much yesterday, and the grace movement said to me, don't listen to Jesus because he had a message that only ministered to the Jew. You know they teach that. So they emphasize Paul. But what I saw in Paul was a patriarchal leader who had no conception of the equality of women in so many ways, and so disavowed the beauty of the body being celibate. And if you look at it through different eyes, you will see religion in general, the church in general, is going to downplay the pleasure of the beauty of our incarnation. I could go on, but let's keep it clean. So the simple awareness of pleasure, spiritually, emotionally, is now that we're experiencing in this higher frequency of energy. The beauty of our bodies, the beauty of our minds, of our hearts, of our biology. Now, let's talk about quantum concepts that Jesus transcended, because they're not a mystery. In John, Jesus says this, and he says, I say to you, the Son can do nothing of himself. He relied on the energy and the access given to him in the Christ field, moving in his Christ self. Christ was not his last name. Christ is a field. It is a field of energy that God has provided for us to access the divine mind. Physicist Max Planck said there is a divine mind behind everything we see, the organization of the universe, the beauty of nature. There is a divine source that has created that. And I'm putting you in my mind, in my heart, to walk in this, to access the very thoughts of the Father within you. So he says, I can't do anything without the Father. What he does, I see what he does, and that is what I do. So the Son also does in like manner. There was an entanglement, an awareness of entanglement, that there was absolutely no separation, none whatsoever between Jesus and the Father. It was not external to him. It was a oneness that was almost uncanny that he showed us in his life as he lived and he moved, always in tune with the Christ field. Always in tune with the resonance of where he was supposed to be and what he was supposed to say and how he was supposed to live in time. That is how you are supposed to live without effort, because that's why Jesus said you move in accordance with divine grace. There is a rhythm of the universe. There is a rhythm in resonance. There is a rhythm finally suited for you. There is a frequency and a rhythm suited For me, it's called my energy signature. What may resonate with me may not resonate with you. We were not created to be robotic, nor were we created to be clones or just fit into a template going in and out, rote, without a mind, without a heart, just and paralyzed in a seat. Good God, that is not how we are supposed to be. So when Jesus walked on water, he defied the laws of gravity. Now, if you Google that, you're going to see a lot of people who'll say, oh, he was just walking on ice. Google it, you'll see. People are trying to downplay the reality that we are spiritual beings moving in a faster speed of light outside of time. That's how we are intuitive. That's how we have telepathy, psychic powers. So Jesus walked on water as an example to defy the laws of gravity. It was not possible to walk on water in the natural realm because that substance could not contain you. So how did he do it? I'm not really quite sure. All I know is that was major, that he defied the laws of gravity, giving us a sign that said, you can too. If you follow these quantum concepts, you will also rise above these natural laws that keep you tethered to fear, that keep you tethered to anxiety, and you will rise up in consciousness with greater light, and you will start seeing some of these things happen in your life. These were never meant for conferences. These were never meant for one person to get on stage where people fall down and get healed. That is, I won't even go there because I cannot even comprehend why we did that. Everyone is empowered, everyone is creative, everyone is unique in the Christ field. So let's look at a few more things that Jesus did, just relating them to quantum topics. In his humanity, moving in divinity, it's teleportation. When you dematerialize an object at one point and you transfer the exact details of its configuration to another location where the object is reconstruction. So there's no time lapse. It's like you enter like almost like a wormhole, it's called in the universe. You bypass time and boom, you're out of one place, you're into the next place. I have friends that have translocated across the world and they've been there for a time to minister and then they've pulled back. Well, where is a good example of that if you want to look at scripture? Well, it says in John, when evening came, his disciples went down to the sea. And it says they got into the boat, they went over the sea toward Capernaum, and it was dark. And it says Jesus had not come to them yet, but the sea arose because a great wind was blowing. Then suddenly, when they row out, they see Jesus walking on the water, okay, defying the laws of physics. We can do that. We're not there yet, but we can do that. So he's walking along the water, and it says they receive him into the boat. When they receive into the boat, listen to what it says. When they receive him into the boat, no time lapse, immediately the boat was on the other side. That's like entering a wormhole where you bypass time, you're out of the natural realm, you're out of the 3D realm, and shoot, you're already on the other side. I know people that have experienced that. I have somewhat experienced that. That's life, folks. That's just not a miracle that's unobtainable. That's quantum concepts. There are other things that he practiced, but we won't go into them now, but there's quantum is all throughout what Jesus did, his actions in his humanity that merged, that integration of his divinity and humanity. Why is that important? Because if you separate your divinity from your humanity, then you have a dualistic mindset, and what you need to be divine comes from something outside yourself. You almost think, maybe you were taught that it's almost blasphemous to think that you're divine, or outrageous to think that you're immortal, but yet quantum bears that out in simple truth. So the integration of that is to show us that even though we've been lowered as a fractal of God with everything that God has in us, in God, that we then are lowered in a denser energy and we rise in a higher level of consciousness, which is greater light outside the speed of light. You are not even bound by the speed of light. How do you think people prophesy? How do you think people are intuitive? How do they bilocate on other parts of the world? How do they show up? How do they know what someone's thinking in another country and they call? It's because of divine entanglement. And then it's also because you are operating in spirit, in the Christ field outside of the realm of time. You're in time, but you're not of time. You're manifesting here, but your life is lived in a different realm. How did I prophesy all those years? How did I know that? How did I know? Because the only place I could meet that person, I couldn't know what I was, and we prophesied with great accuracy. That was our whole ministry. We could prophesy over 100 people and never give the same prophecy twice. It wasn't general prophecies. We were asking for specific things to encourage them and to lift them up. How did I do that? Well, you have to have your senses alive with intuition to access something in the Christ field, in the quantum realm. It's outside of yourself where you're meeting. How do you think? Okay, I'll give you an example for those of you who are still want something from scripture. Remember when Peter, who did he meet? And he had to go in the book of Acts, and Peter had an angel, and it says, I forget his name, that he also heard an angel speak. Well, they connected outside of time, and the angel said to Peter, I want you to go to this person's house, and because they're waiting for you. So someone's going to come and get you. Where did the connection come? They didn't have internet. It wasn't speed. It wasn't in an earthly realm. It was a connection in the quantum field where they met in the divine entanglement. And when they met in the divine entanglement, they moved in a way, and that was when he went there, and he fulfilled this purpose that he received in an intuitive manner. This is an exciting life if you let it be. So let's talk now briefly for the next 10 minutes about the frequency of the Christ. Within the quantum field, there is a Christ field of frequency. Let's say the quantum field is the all. It permeates all of the universe. God creates this field. God's in this field. But there has to be a way for God to communicate with you in your human form. You came from energy in fullness. You only changed form. You didn't change essence. You only changed form. You didn't change essence. You are as eternal and immortal and divine as you were when you were in the field. But when you incarnate, the energy slows down, it becomes matter, hence you become human. So you are then called to rise. And when you rise, how you rise is you have the mind of Christ, but that is not enough. You need to connect also with your heart. It is the mind and it is the heart that connects within the Christ field. And that Christ field is a divine connection into the very heart of God. All of that is within. You have to picture that field. I'm the field. I'm in the field and I am the field. It's like this ocean where this wave rises up to manifest and goes back down into wholeness. Right now, in my humanity, the wave is rising up to form a crest. That is my life. That is my manifestation. That is my purpose. I'm rising up. And when this time is done, when I have gone through all my timelines and I rise in consciousness, there will come a time when I just cross on over, but I have not disappeared. There is no death for us, people. There is no death. And when we realize that, we will be bold and we will be courageous in ways we've not experienced. So this field, this Christ field, it is the divine mind created by God out of the field of energy and sound. So when God created, let there be, God always creates through the vibration of energy, of light and sound. When they come together, they form matter. So you, in the perfection of who you are slow moving light and slow moving sound. But when I prophesy, or when I am moving in an intuitive way, I access a greater speed of light and a faster vibration of sound in the Christ field. Why? Because when I came to this earth, I am a fractal and the wholeness and beauty of everything that God is. A fractal, if you think of an acorn or you think of a seashell, if you break that down, in every cell is the fullness of the whole. So the whole fractal, break it down, it encompasses the fullness of the whole. So you came as a fractal of God into your incarnation, but you are not an orphan being called to navigate a realm that you know nothing about, that somehow it's a great joke, that somehow, how do I do this? No, you have been given the beauty of accessing the Christ field, which increases within you in your Christ self. We'll go into more detail in the days ahead. So fractals, I am a fractal of God. I am entangled. There is no separation. I am in God. God is in me. And as I said, there needs to be a communication. As I rise in light and in sound and in energy, there is an easy communication. You can call it in spirit. That's why in the book of Revelation, John says, I was in the spirit on the Lord's day. Boom. There was no time lapse. You don't need to think about being in the spirit or recognizing. It comes with growth. It comes with maturity, but it's there waiting for you. This growth, this rise, this enlargement, this expansion, as Bonnie will talk about, comes from your own responsibility to know that that field is there and to move in sync with it. How? Through the coherence of your mind and your heart, again, in the coming days. So we are created within the spiraling energy, light, and sound of the divine Om of God. And I am a fractal of the whole. All that is within me is God, and the fullness of the divine is in me in human form. That elevates your identity quite a bit. Religion loves to keep you low, loves to keep you suffering, loves to keep you not asking questions, loves to keep you at a very low frequency, a very low vibration, because at that low vibration, you are trapped in the world's sound and in the world's narrative. That is why Jesus said the kingdom, the Christ field, the Christ is within you. Don't look for it here. Don't look for it there. It's within you. And in you, there are no restrictions to advance yourself and to grow in this. As you surrender and your ego comes into sync with the divine mind and the elevated emotions of the heart, you will start moving. Don't you want this? Don't you want every day to be a journey? And not just a day of doing the same thing over and over because you're caught in subconscious limiting beliefs. So you don't expand. Some don't even know they can expand. I'm talking to some people right now, they don't know what the hell I'm saying. That's okay. It really is okay, because everyone has to start somewhere. Everyone has to start. And it's like, again, I'm going to refer back to the Wizard of Oz. When that house drops down, and suddenly she opens that door and everything's like in color. It's like incredibly beautiful. Things she didn't know, her senses came alive. Fantasy came alive. Imagination came alive. Everything came alive because suddenly the life that she was seeing was not the life she was. So prepare yourself as you go on this journey. This is not a linear understanding. I don't preach linearly. So you're looking for these points, you're not going to really get them with me, because I'm going to ask you to just open your heart and open your mind and receive by the Spirit, receive in the Christ mind, because in that field you will gain understanding. All the potential in that field is available to you. Do not be overwhelmed. You have to start at one point. And the best place to start is knowing who you are, looking deep within yourself and realizing what is it that makes you you. Have you ever asked that? Or do you just go about every day just assuming you are what everybody else says you are, or everybody else has ever said you are, or what the church has said you are, or what religion has said you are, or what your friends have said you are? Have you ever looked deep inside to connect with that true design of your true self? I believe you want that. I believe I want it. I believe I'm walking in it to a certain extent. I'm walking in that in-between place where I'm still in this world and I'm having to change the tools that I use to navigate. I have to have my vision change to see possibility even in the midst of chaos. My hearing has to change so that I hear the positive high vibrations. My resonance attraction needs to change, that I flow where focus goes, energy flows. I try to avoid situations to the best of my ability where I am going to be shut down. But even in those situations, when I'm shut down, it's not me shutting myself down, it's the perception of the person looking at me, projecting onto me with what isn't mine. So I am learning in this in-between place of an increased frequency, of an increased awareness. I am learning I can be just like Jesus. I can go anywhere, I can do anything, and believe in my divine humanity, and almost put an energy protection around me so that even if I'm not resonating with people, I don't lose myself in the midst of the crowd. That I'm learning to maintain myself, my beliefs, my truths in humility and grace, not always openly saying them, sometimes openly standing for them, but that love and that gratitude every day that I'm realizing I really like myself. I love myself. I love the way I'm created. I love how I think. Everything that everyone told me was not acceptable, the church told me was not acceptable. Honey, I had a 4-year almost fashion design certificate, and because the church told me how to self-sabotage myself. This is just fact, and this is my testimony. Okay, the church led me to believe that all the fashion stuff was hardly acceptable because it was, quote, carnal. You know what I did? I sold it all into the bondage of religion. I remember the day I walked into my room and I sold all my fabric, every machine I had. I was moving forth in this level of creativity, and they shut it down. Please don't let religion shut you down, because you will have to deal with the regret. And that started me on a self-sabotage. Let me share with you how. Every time I wanted to rise up in creativity and to do something different, when I got right to that point of breaking free, the price was too high. There was rejection, there was comply or die, there was follow these rules, don't do that, you should do this. And because of the rejection in me, and because I didn't know that I was worthy, I constantly self-sabotage, but honey, I'm not there anymore. And there's a whole lot of things I want to say and will say in these courses that I'm not going to put out right here, because this is something that is me and how I got to this place. And all of us are rising. Couple more things. This awareness of our divinity and our humanity. We have to get past dualism. What is dualism? It's living a fragmented, separated life where everything is outside of yourself. And that is an impossible reality, because you are one, you are whole, you just don't know it, you've never been taught it, but more than taught it, you've never experienced it. Teaching alone is not enough. These things can only be caught as you move in them in experience. You're going to have to start moving. The beauty of our humanity means you got to put yourself out there. You've got to be with people you've never been before. Put yourself in situations that you've never experienced before. Go sit at a bar, go sit at a restaurant, start talking to people, have a glass of wine, go to a movie, go to art, go to culture, go to nature, take a trip, open your heart up to everything that's out there, and you will see the beauty of your incarnation, and you will learn along the way how to be out and about. What you will learn, and I've learned this through all my travels, is that you will learn how to live, how to move, and how to have your being in the Christ field, in the Christ mind, that you can laugh with people and not constantly want to argue. You don't have to take a side. You don't have to choose us versus them. You can just flow into any situation with the ease of the energy to go in there. It is not time to hunker down. It is time to realize you are divinely human and your humanity is beautiful. Right now in my life, like in many of yours, I'm moving between the two timelines of what was and what I'm learning. And more often than not, I'm moving in a higher energy and a higher frequency. Why is that? Because it's bringing joy, because that gratitude in my heart, when it connects with the mind, when I see the potential in the quantum field, and I am so grateful that I've been put in time for such a time as this, and that I love my life, and I face every day in that high vibrational energy. I impact people around me, and I move out in that. But every now and then, I do get pulled back into doubt, sometimes a little bit of fear, and then I just pull myself back. I center. I do some heart techniques that Bonnie has showed me, and I center back into the reality of what's really in my heart. I ask my heart, this topic, it's so wide, it's so big, it's so vast. I'm just scratching the surface. I'm not even going that deep. I'm just scratching the surface, and I'm going all over trying to help you get a feel. What's my purpose? To get you out of that linear need to understand. Once I can help you throw that away for a while and just sit and listen in the spirit, that Christ mind and that elevated emotional heart will start to reveal things to you in synchronicities, in thoughts, in insights. And every time that is revealed to you, you will step out, because what are you going to do with it? You're just going to keep it inside? Is it just going to fester inside of you? Some of you are bound by so much fear, you got to move. You got to move. You've got to go out. And the first thing you will conquer is yourself. You don't have to conquer anything else. The first thing you have to come face to face with is a question. Because as soon as you start moving out in this realm, and all religion dies, and all religion, Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, it's all irrelevant. It has its purpose, but the only thing that exists is God in Christ, in the Christ field, as the Christ. It is so far above anything religion is teaching, any denomination is teaching. This is true freedom. It starts with one step. When you begin to move out and you start moving out, the first thing you're going to face is there's going to be an overwhelming desire in you of who am I? Not as a passing quick answer. Then you're going to get mad because you'll see your life and how many times you've compromised and how many times you've lived in the shadow of everybody else or lived in the energy of everybody else. And then there'll come a desire more than anything to find out who you are. Why is that? So that your very life takes on a different energy frequency every day, and that you live and move and have your being in the Christ field. Now, I hope this went well, because I'm going to just keep flowing in the days ahead. I've got to get back to that. I lost that for a while. So let me see how to end. I got a minute or so. You can't be me. I can give you all the tools. I can help you and position you in front of the door. I can say, come on, you can move out in that wide open field, but I can't do it for you. And I can't give you rules on how to find you. I can give you encouragement. I can give you some intuitive knowledge. We can teach you some things. But when it gets down to it, the only person that you can be is you. And to discover you, you're going to have to do it alone. You will never find you through other people. You will only find you when you look at these concepts and you embrace them, and you sit and you meditate, or you be quiet, or you're in nature, and you ask God within you, as you get rid of these limiting beliefs, who am I? And you're going to find some answers. That's about all I have to say. So I hope that you have a really good day. And I hope that I stretched you so much that you may not understand anything I said, but you know there's something here. So I love you guys. You have a great day.